On this episode of the Mompreneur Show, I'm talking with Brooke Saxon-Spencer. She's a wife to her college sweetheart and mom of 3 children and the founder and editor of Belong magazine. How beautiful is this? And those of you who are listening to the show on the podcast, I'm sorry you won't see this, but Belong magazine is absolutely beautiful. This is their issue number 6. Their issue number 7 is going to be in Barnes & Noble online on Wednesday. So issue 7 this Wednesday. So I'm really, really excited today for it. And I know I'm going to totally run to Barnes & Noble and grab issue 7 because it's now my absolutely favorite magazine. So on the show today, Brooke will share her incredible entrepreneurial journey, which I know so many of you will relate to, as well as how to find your heart's work. If you found it or if you're looking for your heart's work, this episode is absolutely for you. I'm your host, Vicky, and this is the show that helps you win in business without losing at home. But before we get into the show, I would like to thank 2 wonderful companies for making this show possible. One of them is Made On. It's an all-natural brand of skincare, chapstick, and hard lotion. It's run by a husband and wife team, and they make natural skincare that has as little as 3 ingredients. And it helps people with cracked and dry skin, some maybe even eczema. So head on over to hardlotion.com, and when you add the items that you'd like to your cart, just type in the coupon code Vicky, VICKY, and that will get you $5 off your whole purchase, which is a really good deal because their products are very reasonably priced. And another company I'd like to thank is Audible. And it's an incredible company that hosts hundreds of thousands of audiobooks that you can listen to in the car, on the go, or while washing the dishes like I do, and get your free 30-day trial with a book. So you can actually go on audible.com/Vicky and get your free book that you can listen to on the go. And it can be any book that out of the Audible library. So thank you again so much for being here. I am so happy that you're here. Let's get into the show. Hey Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, it is so good to have you. Such an honor. I've been a huge fan of your work, and I don't know, I guess I don't follow as closely as I should because I didn't realize that you sold your magazine in Barnes & Noble. And then about a month ago, I walked in and I was just browsing, having a cup of coffee, just really chilling because I had too many things on my mind. And I came across this beautiful, just absolutely beautiful copy of Belong magazine. I was just like, wait a minute, I know this magazine. I follow them on Instagram. They're amazing. The people that you have to contribute to this magazine are absolutely incredible. Like, I'm just absolutely in awe, and I'm so thankful that you're here. And I would love if you can share your journey with us, because your journey is, of course, unlike any other people's journey. It's your own, and it's very fascinating and has its bumps in the road. And I love how open you are about really sharing actually how things happen, not as we hope that how they would happen. So thank you again so much, Brooke, and please share us your story.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and to share a bit. You're right. It's not traditional. Just like everybody has a very unique story. And I think that, it's really great and important to remember that our stories are unique and that they're valuable and they're valid and they're important on their own. Belong started as a magazine just about a year and a half ago was when we launched. And it's the royal we. When I launched it, Belong is still a one-man team. I do have a designer that helps me and a couple of lovely interns/volunteers that do a few things. But for the most part, it's all me. So I'm right there in the same boat with so many of the rest of your audience and of this tribe of women who are really out there trying to make their dreams happen, to try to find what their hearts, what makes their hearts sing and find their life's work. And I started my career almost 20 years ago in healthcare, working for my family's business. And my education was in photography, graphic design, and creative writing. But when I had the opportunity upon graduation to get a real job, it was a little harder than I'd anticipated. And so I started working for my family doing marketing in a healthcare setting. And I just kind of stayed. And it was great. I loved it. And I loved working with my family. But a few years ago, we moved from the Midwest to Southern California. And I was able to bring a lot of my work with me. And I loved it and I enjoyed it. But my family decided about a year ago that actually they decided about 2 years ago that they were going to be selling the business.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know about the rest of you, but it's like, you know, especially as a family business, like I never envisioned that I wouldn't have that job. Like
Exactly.
it was, I mean, just as a silly example, I didn't use any other email address other than my work email address. Like that was it. I didn't have another one because
Wow.
like I signed up like everything was under that email. So in my mind, like that was it. That was permanent. It was always going to be there and it was safe for me. I was able to keep an income coming in. Living in Southern California is not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and like I said, I enjoyed the work because it was for my family. And healthcare wasn't exactly a field I would ever have chosen, but the work was very rewarding. It's not something that I was going to want to do for someone else. And thinking about, I had some time. It wasn't like I got laid off and sent out the door immediately. I had a little bit of time to kind of actually step back and reflect and think about what I might want to do moving forward. And excuse me. And that's when I started, I kind of let my imagination go wild, which I know a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do that. So I was very blessed. But I really just started thinking, like, what is it that would really not only be fun and rewarding, but what do I feel like I was meant to do? Like, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
And during my stint in healthcare, I blogged a bit. It never really had healthcare doesn't really have the creative outlet that some other fields do. And I tried my best to keep that going on the side. Doing billing and administrative work isn't exactly creative. So I did some blogging and things on the side, but I'm an introvert and that translates online as well for the most part. Like you can't just pop up a blog and like people don't just come to you. You actually have to do the work. Exactly. You have to put yourself out there.
Exactly.
So I was very frustrated by all of this, thinking, well, here, like I've established this and doing this work, like, as far as the blogging side, and yet I still can't find my people. Like, where are they? And not only that, but where do I go to find them? The internet is just so big. I don't know. I don't know where I belong. Like I'm not, at that point, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was just, kind of dabbling in blogging, kind of figuring it out. Mainly I was doing it to kind of find my people. And I felt really lost and alone in that process. And that kind of stuck with me. And so as I started to revisit the ideas of things that I might want to do, the idea of the word belong kept coming back to me. And then pulling back in what my education was about in college, though it was a long time ago, the photography, graphic design, and creative writing piece, when I pulled those together and I thought, okay, what could I use those for and kind of help women find their place? Like how can you pull all that together? And it could have been solely digital or an online thing, but there's something for me as a creative about taking some of those online tools and curating them to something that you can hold in your hand. As a creative, that's really important to me, the tactile aspect. So that's kind of where Belong was born. And then logistically, it was just, okay, well, I already know the name, thankfully, because that sometimes is a journey all on its own, right? Picking a name for your business.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I just did a blog post about choosing a name for your business, like made a worksheet because I just know so many people struggle with that. And it's so important and you really need to put time into it. But thankfully, I felt like I already had that. And so it was just like, okay, how do you tackle it? Oh my gosh. Where do you start? Which is a question people ask all the time, right? Like, okay, I've got this and I just did a blog post on this too. I got this brilliant business idea. Now what?
Yeah. Okay.
And well, at least you think it's brilliant,
Oh my,
right?
yes, right, Brooke. Okay, you said, oh my gosh, your story is absolutely beautiful, and there's so many things I can pick at. One of them which really strikes me is that, and I've heard this before on your other interviews, and I love how honestly you just put it out there. It's like you started blogging, and you couldn't find your place, and you couldn't find your people, and it's you're right. I started blogging back in 2010, and it was so hard for me as well. And I did not do very well in it. I the blog is still alive, but I haven't touched it for years. But I feel like that journey, us writing that blog, oh my gosh, it was such a learning curve. We learned so much. And even though it seems like it's a mistake, like, oh, why did, like
A failure.
a failure, exactly. It seems like that, but actually, it's what really moves you forward to what you're doing now. Okay, so can we talk a little bit about how you found the Belong magazine, how you found, like how you went into your head and organized all the information, everything that you know, because that is incredible. I love that you went back and you said, okay, what do I have and how can I serve others with what I already know? And so did you go through some kind of worksheet, or how did you...
I'm so glad that you asked, because and I think I just got my earphones stuck on my shirt. Sorry. The tools that I used were really, really helpful. And it just so happened that this all kind of, when I found out that the family was selling the business, and it was around Christmas time, and I happened to get a whole bunch of books for Christmas that sort of related to this topic. It was very, very strange, but I'm so thankful. So, the one book that really sticks out to me is the book Make It Happen by Lara Casey. And then to go with that, she also has created like a goal organizational system called Power Sheets.
Yes.
And they were life-changing. Wow. They were a game changer for me and really helped me kind of ask myself the tough questions and organize those thoughts. And then really basically it's almost like a study in anxiety. Like, okay, wow. So if you really want X, like, but you're afraid to go for it, like what's the worst possible case scenario and what's the best possible case scenario? And then what's stopping you? Like,
and is that in the Power Sheets?
It goes along with the whole philosophy. So like,
I love that.
If failure is your biggest fear, like what does that look like? And why it, like, so for me, like even starting Belong, what's my biggest fear? Like failure. Well, what does failure look like? Well, it looks like creating this magazine and then nobody buys it, nobody wants it, and I move on to the next thing. What have I really lost? I mean, sure, I've lost some time, but what will I have lost if I don't do it? Well, I'll never know. Like, I'll never know what this thing is. And so, and like you said with the blogs, like, yeah, I mean, technically, like they're gone. The blogs that I did, I think, 2 different ones, they're gone now, and that's fine, but I did learn so much. Exactly. And I never would have been exposed to this whole environment. It's all part of that journey. And so when we say no to those things that kind of intrigue us and that we're interested in moving forward with, when we say no to them, it's like we're turning our back on that journey, and it's kind of sad. There's these opportunities that we're missing, and this creative and entrepreneurial group of women that we're part of, they're, for the most part, they're extremely encouraging, and they don't see these things as failures with us. They want to see us continue to use these things as stepping stones and as building blocks along our journey. So they're not sitting there thinking, she totally screwed that up. Like, exactly. It's more like, okay, well, maybe that wasn't, what's next? Like, what are you going to do next? Like, so Belong is not going to work as a print magazine, whatever. Like, what's going to be next then on this journey? Like, what did you learn from that you're going to take forward? And that's kind of with the Power Sheets, it kind of helped me sit back and think, okay, so I've got these ideas. What's holding me back? Well, that's stupid. Like, what can I do that I can move forward and maybe, like, in a sense, hold it loosely enough still so that, like, I'm, but risks they're risks for a reason. And, there's no reward without risk.
I
So
agree.
I think that those power sheets, um, they helped me kind of outline the big goals and then break it down and then break it down some more. And that's really where it's super helpful. And then what you do is once they're broken down into small, small chunks, you realize that you take one of those chunks at a time and it can lead into slightly different directions. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. The journey doesn't necessarily have to look like what you originally thought it did, but you have to take a step and then the next step and then the next one. And that's what's important, is that you just don't sit there and stay there.
Exactly. I love that.
So
Thank you
yeah,
for sharing, Brooke. And we have some power sheet lovers in the live audience with us. I know that Olga says, I have those sheets too. Love it. And Olga, I bet Ina introduced you to them because Ina is a huge fan of those power sheets. She's the one that told me about it, but I hope to have Laura Casey on the show one of these days. But Brooke, it's so interesting how you mentioned about our failures, about our mistakes, and that people actually, like in reality, they don't actually sit there and laugh at you and say, haha, she screwed up. And we talked about this before we went live. We actually, as human beings, we actually like have a sigh of relief when we see someone screw up or mess up or make a mistake or fail, because we're like, okay, good, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one.
yes,
And so I love that. But here's the thing. Oh my gosh, you're an incredibly vulnerable, like as far as like authentic. You really share the ups and downs about the magazine, about the entrepreneurial struggles. But where is the balance? Like I've been really struggling with that myself as the host of the show. Like I want to make it all pro, look all good and sleek and nice, and you know how like look better than what it actually is, or like, you know what I mean? And how do we balance like all the mistakes and all the vulnerabilities? Like, hey guys, this is
yeah.
like, I'm one man show as well, and this, doesn't look as cool as actually it is. Like, how do you balance that credibility and the authenticity?
That is such a good question. And it is really, really hard. And I think that sometimes we think that the authenticity is almost a negative, right? Like we think, well, it's like by being authentic, we're basically saying that we're sharing like the negative stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And for example, the other day I hesitated, but I put up a post on Instagram. This is another very like authentic moment. So the magazines, they all ship to my house and then they go in my garage. Like the pallets are wheeled into my garage. And then to get them to Barnes and Noble, they have to then be resent. And to explain why this is necessary is a long story, but let's just say that it's part of the life of a small business owner. They come here first and then I reship them. And so, but there's 3 distribution centers for Barnes and Noble. One of them is 20 minutes from my house. Mm-hmm. So why would I ship them 20 minutes? I throw them in my Honda Pilot, and which is looking really saggy in the back end because magazines are heavy. And I drive them 20 minutes away and I pull up to the loading dock of this distribution center, which is intended for semis. And like, I'm waving up from the dock, like, hi, I'm here and I have a delivery. And, they're like, who is this girl? And then, the rest of the magazines are sitting in my garage. Well, I posted something on Instagram about it, like with a whole bunch of boxes in the entrance of my garage, ready for FedEx to pick them up again. And like that, but I shared it in the sense of like, here's what it looks like. This is the authenticity of what it is, but I'm sharing this as a win. Like it may look kind of ugly, but look at this. This is a win. This is the life of a small business owner. And I'm celebrating today because I had over 4,000 issues of a magazine that I curated. Now, granted, it wasn't me. Like the content is a collaboration of tons of women, and I'm so honored to be able to work with all of them. But it's like something though that you're like, I did this, like I curated this, and over 4,000 of these things just showed up at my house, and I'm sending them out, and other people are going to get them. And so I shared it as a win instead of saying like, oh, here's the messy nitty gritty, which it still was. I was like, but I'm celebrating because I don't think that we share the positives.
Yes.
Like, even though, I mean, it's still pretty, right? Like it may not look pretty to have 4,000 plus magazines in my garage.
Yeah.
I really wanted to share it in the sense of like, this is a huge win, and I want to make sure that we celebrate the little victories with one another, because so often we're quick to, like I'm quick to say, oh, I'm not perfect, and here are where my shortcomings are, which is important as well. It really is. But we're also not real quick to pat ourselves on the back when we've really made it, we've accomplished something.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of the balance, is that you gain credibility through being authentic, both in the positive and the negative stuff, like admitting when you're wrong, but also giving yourself credit when you're getting it right, and using that as an encouragement for other people, that you're not bragging. And again, that's part of the balance, right? Is that if you're also sharing ways in which you're not getting it right, people will take you seriously and celebrate with you when you do get it right. They want to be there for the whole picture, for the whole journey. So it's like those people that you hang around with that are always ragging on themselves. Like it just gets really old.
That's so true.
When you with people who are confident when they have reason to be, it makes sense, right? And it's good. It's positive, and like it's encouraging. So I think that that really helps find that balance. And oftentimes you'll see when it's things that people put out that the pictures can look really pretty, but the message is very like the picture paints one thing, like it looks one way, but then the message, if you read it, you'll see a little bit more behind the heart. And I think that that's also one way that we can keep it looking professional, yet the voice is still very real, if that makes sense.
I love that so much.
Because I totally agree. Like, I don't want to mess up my feed with that's why Insta stories are so great, because you can put like the crap and it disappears, right? Like it's gone, whoops. But like, and occasionally I'll throw something in that maybe I don't think quite is cohesive. And Instagram is my main focus. That's why I think of it. And because it's so visual. But I think that often we can use images maybe that are still on point with your brand, but then use the message to portray something that is more heartfelt.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And now I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, you've been doing that. So many people have been doing that I follow on Instagram, but I've never been able to, like, Vicky, never been able to, like, divide the two. Like, you can have that beautifully crafted photo, like you can, that matches your feed, but the message could say so much about the photo. It could be like, hey, 5 minutes before this did not look like that, or whatever.
Exactly. Well, it's like me showing the magazine, like, so here's the magazine, but here is what it looked like, like 10 days ago, when we almost didn't get it to print because whatever, we didn't have all the pieces together, or here's what it took to get here, or whatever, using using that opportunity to send an actual message. And, you hope people will read it and whatever. I mean, you can't control all of it, but you can try to use those opportunities as best you can.
Oh, absolutely. And Brooke, that's beautiful. And you've mentioned some really beautiful quotes, like key takeaways, that I will make sure to put in the show notes on Wednesday, so that way we can tweet them, because they're short and concise and so beautifully said. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so you totally know what you're talking about. Okay, so I want to talk about like the family dynamics. You have 3 children who they're not in their 20s. They're still at home. They're 6, I think you said 10?
6, 10, and 14.
And 14. Though, I mean, those kids are in need of their mom, and you obviously are providing that love, that attention for them. How do you balance it? How do you balance being a mother of 3 beautiful children while running this incredible ship?
So, a couple of things. One is there is no such thing as balance. I will continue to try to find it. But I think that it comes down to just like constant choices and trying to make the best ones. And most of the time it means that you have to choose your family first, because, family is just it. Your kids aren't going to be around forever, and they're not going to be this age forever, and they do need their mommies. But the other some of the other things that I've found is, and it's even an example of where I'm sitting right now. So I'm sitting with my back to the rest of my house. So I think my kids are going to remember the back of my head more than anything because of the fact that I am able to be present to them in other times, like, picking them up from school, and they don't have to stay after, which, is fine if they did, but I choose to get them right after school, and then they come home, but then they see the back of my head instead of staying after school and doing whatever. But, I'm around to be able to drive them places and, make them dinner and do whatever instead of being at an office, which I've done in previous lives. So it's a give and take. Like, for me to be able to do certain things for them, I have to, they're going to have to see the back of my head at other moments. I'm still home with them though. And I think that's important to them, and also including them in part of telling them what I'm doing and getting them, they get super excited when the magazine gets shipped to the house and they get to be part of that. And, I spend, today is, which you can't see because it's just below the screen line, are boxes upon boxes of packing materials and magazines that I'm getting ready to ship out, because today is the day that they're getting shipped to subscribers, because the next issue releases Wednesday. And letting them be part of that and not keeping them at arm's length all the time. Yeah. So it's not necessarily always a balance, but an inclusion, and letting them be part of the Belong journey as well. So that, and it's so fun to hear them talk about it, to talk about what their mommy's doing and telling them basically including them in on the journey and telling them what's going on and sharing the big wins and the bummers and why mommy's stressed today and why I'm so excited and celebrating another day and why I'm treating myself to a mani-pedi last Friday because, doggone it, I got all 4,000 issues in the garage and then 3,000 of them shipped back out, and mommy needs a break. So, you know what I mean? Trying to be open with them and authentic with my kids, even that I don't have it all together. I don't have it figured out, and we're kind of on this journey together. But I want them to be part of it. So it's not, like I said, I don't know that there's ever really a great way to balance it. Well, I'm going to do 2 hours here and 3 hours here, but trying to find a way to mesh it together so that not any one thing is getting all of my attention all the time.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Brooke. That is amazing. And the fact that you are including them in your work is so beautiful. And that is a huge lesson for me, because I don't always include my kids in what I'm doing. I do sometimes say oh guys, the show went great today and yay, because I know we had some technical difficulties before and it was really hard. And sometimes my kids do say mommy, did your computer not work today again or something? I mean, in a very in a childish way, as much as they can comprehend. I think it's so important, but I feel like I need to do that more and really include them more into that.
Just wait until my 6-year-old walks up, and then she'll be oh look, I'm part of something.
Oh, that is so precious. And I love that we as moms, we can work at home and not freak out about our child being sick from school and having to find someone else to watch them, because we work from home and we give them something to occupy them and we're back at work. I mean, in our home.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the flexibility and freedom that our careers offer us.
Yes.
So, Brooke, what about the husband? I wanted to do the husband dilemma, but it's not obviously husband dilemma. But how were you and your husband able to communicate this to make this work? Because I don't know if my husband would want 4,000 magazines in his garage. You know what I mean? What were your conversations like? How did you communicate your dream with him and to get him on board with you?
Well, thankfully, I have a husband who's extremely communicative. We often joke that we have flipped roles, and that I'm usually the one that's much more to myself, and he talks all the time. So we talk a lot, and going back, I spent all of his, the second we had a baby, I literally realized I was not meant to be a stay-at-home mom. Delivery and, oh crap, what did I do? When can I go back to work? And it literally almost went just like that. And so my husband, he was working on his master's and PhD at the time. He's an English professor. And so he stayed home. And I worked a schedule where I was either gone 3 to 4 days a week out of the house, and I worked really long days. And then he would go to school, and he also taught at the time on the days that I was home. And then my mom was around, was at that stage in our life. We lived near my parents, so my mom would be able to help us on a day. So my kids have had their daddy stay home with them for so long that he was the primary caregiver for a really long time. So just a few years ago, we kind of flipped the switch, and we've always kind of been in this mode of having to communicate a lot about like the logistics and things. And then, and then we totally flipped our lives upside down a few years ago when we switched positions, and he was the one with the full-time job and I was the one working at home. But being a professor doesn't mean that you have to be on campus at school all day, every day. So he works from home a couple of days a week. And now that our kids are all in school, it gives us a lot of time together, which can be great. It also can be a severe distraction, but we talk a lot. I think we have the opportunity to have a lot more conversations than most married couples do, especially without our kids around because of that. And he has a lot of unique perspectives, having been a stay-at-home dad for so long. So he's very, in a sense, I guess you could say he's sort of open-minded to like, well, let's see how we figured things out before. How can things, get figured out again? And I think he really saw when we were talking about, what the possibilities were for me moving forward in a new career. He knew that I didn't want to go work for someone else, nor did he really want me to be working out of the house full time, because that would add so much pressure to our family. So when this idea came up, he was kind of like, let's do it. Let's just do it. So I didn't really have to do a lot of convincing. But I think that just says something about the fact that we have a lot, like we're communicating a lot anyway. So it's not like I just came in one day and I was like, I have this idea, let's do it. He was part of the whole process, and he continues to be like such an incredible support. I'm really, really fortunate. But he still is a reality check, because he'll often say like, okay, I don't think you're thinking of this from the right perspective. Like, you're not treating this like a business. You're not. And he, sometimes it's not fun to hear those things from your husband, especially if like, you're not the one doing it. What do you know? But he often offers some really great insights as far as like my time management, or the fact that I'm not spending enough time with our kids, or just encouraging me and reminding me that, I'm doing the best that I can. And, so he is really great. And I wish that everyone was as blessed as I am to have a husband that's just so open and willing and supportive. I know that's not always the case, but the communication thing is really key.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Brooke. And yes, you're so blessed. And I'm so thankful for my husband, because I feel like he offered, like what you shared about your husband offering some really interesting insights. My husband's the same way. Like, he'll be like, I was like, honey, once I can officially bring you home and so we can both work on this thing, you're going to be my financial officer, because you do all that finances stuff. And he's always telling me, babe, well, you have to listen to your manager, referring to himself.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And
we have board meetings all the time, because, the logistics of business, or, once you establish the LLC, like you want to make it seem legit and real. So we try to take notes and like minutes when he like comes in. We're like, wait, we need to be writing this down, because then we can put it back and like, in our minutes and show that we've had like meetings to discuss the business and the strategy and whatever, because that's what we're doing. Like, so often we forget that like those aren't just little conversations. They are actually like, they're almost like board meetings. They're just between the two of us, but that's what a small business looks like. So
exactly. I completely agree. Brooke, oh my gosh, your story is so beautiful. What the insights that you shared are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. But I do want to ask you, what kind of advice do you have for mom entrepreneurs who are maybe just beginning their journey or who are in the middle of their journey and looking for their heart's work? Like, what can you tell them to give them some encouragement?
I would say just continuing to take the next step is key. Like, don't get so discouraged that you're just going to stay in one place because it's so easy to do. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with all of the kid stuff, with the spouse stuff, with friends, with whatever it is, to kind of forget whatever it is that you've kind of got in your mind, or that you're kind of like, I really want to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have it all planned out. Just figure out what the next step might be. If it's wanting to do, a podcast or a show like this, figure out what are the 5 tools that you have to have and buy the first one. And then plan out when you're going to invest in the next one, and, start writing out an outline of what topics you want, just the little things. You don't have to have it all figured out to do something.
Yeah.
That, and I would also say that, definitely take the time to really reflect on what it is that you want to do and why you want to do it. I know people talk about the why a lot, but I really mean make it more personal. Why is it going to be rewarding for you, and what is it going to do to help serve others? Because really, it doesn't mean anything to you personally unless it's making a difference somewhere. So what is it that you're doing that can serve others? And then, are the decisions that you're making, are those little steps that you're taking, are they fulfilling that? Do they line up with whatever that is, with that purpose that you've set out there? Are they able to serve what your needs are and others at the same time? So is purchasing that software platform, is that getting you a step closer to that? Or are you getting off track? Are you jumping too far ahead? Is it just that you need to start networking with people on Facebook, or that you need to start an Instagram account, or whatever it is? Start really thinking about what those little things are, and are they fulfilling that purpose? Because I think so often and so easily I get off track because I think there's 5 million things to do. And, first of all, I got to tackle them all right now.
Exactly.
But stepping back and saying, and there could be a lot of different things. It could even be and I know nobody wants to talk about money, but let's talk about for just a second. Sometimes you have to decide, so maybe the microphone or the software platform is just out of your financial reach right now. That's okay. Yeah. You can still network for free on Facebook. Or for me, there are some days where I have to step away from social media because I need to work on finding advertisers, which I hate and I'm terrible at. But in order to further the magazine, there has to be money coming in. Otherwise, I have to go back and find a full-time job in healthcare to pay the bills, because I'll be honest with you right now, Belong is not paying the bills. And so there's a short period of time that I have to kind of flip things around. So I have to be making decisions that are serving my family, as well as my audience, as well as myself. It's fine. That's where I think the balance, when it comes down to balance, really comes in, is what are those activities that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis? And are they working me toward that goal of being able to use Belong as a tool to help women, but that also fulfills me and provides financially for my family? Is it doing those things? Because if it's not, then it might not be something that I should be spending my time on right now.
Oh, that is so good. But here, can we talk a little bit? I know I was about to close, but can you talk a little bit about the heart's work equals no money? The thing is, it's not necessarily no money, but it's not that when you start your heart's work, you're not necessarily going to have a legitimate business where you can balance everything out. And how do we cope with that? How do we make it work in the long run?
Yeah. It's funny. All of these questions, I was working through in my mind, because the question I get asked a lot is how do you just start? And as I started thinking about that, I was running through a bunch of blog post ideas. And of course they keep branching off. And one of them was exactly that. First of all, can your brilliant idea make money? And what do you do if it can't? That was the follow-up post. That what do you do? There's a fuzzy in my face. What do you do?
I will totally link to that.
Yeah. What do you do if your brilliant business idea can't make money? And then you really do have to make a choice, right? Is it if it's something that you're really passionate about and that you know you're meant to do, then you're going to keep figuring it out. But you may have to do something else in the meantime. So for me, I may have like, and to be, I keep it real and I keep it honest. I'm still working in doing healthcare consulting on the side to help pay the bills while Belong is building. So, and for a while, the full first year of Belong, I was working another full-time job on top of that and building a healthcare consulting business. So I essentially had 3 jobs and my family. So like, as far as, answering that question of like, how do you do it? What if the money's not coming in? Well, you have to really make a choice. You have to make those choices, and you either have to find something else and stay with it, something else that can pay the bills, because the bills have to be paid.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean that your idea is crap. Like, that's the other thing. Don't give up on it just because it's not making money right away. Exactly. People think that Belong is like raking in the cash. It is not. Like, let me assure you that it's one of those, again, it looks pretty from the outside, but the reality is that people have to buy the magazine, and like a $10 magazine isn't going to pay for my family to survive in Southern California unless we're selling lots and lots and lots of them. So then we need advertisers and other ways, right? Like, so it's being creative and thinking about whether the idea that you have could have other potential income sources, or maybe you're doing something else for a while at the same time, or maybe it's just not the right time yet. So maybe you start building it, but you're not using it to count on it for income at that time. Like, it's just kind of stepping back and like doing that reality check and thinking, maybe my kids need to be my priority right now, but this idea is like, I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go yet. I just don't have the time and resources yet.
I love that so much. Oh my goodness. And for the record, like, I do the same thing. Mompreneur Show is not ranking in the cash either. And I have a few business marketing clients that I'm working with. So like, I feel like, Brooke, we're like totally doing this together as far as like doing the same thing, is like really doing our hard work. And then doing stuff that will actually pay the bills. So
and it's the same reason why I'm driving magazines to the distribution center, because it saves me like $1,500, which to a large company is nothing, right? Like, why would we waste our time driving 20 minutes? Well, that's a lot of cash, a lot of cash. And that's the reason why I don't have staff yet. And I know that's a whole other topic, right? But that's the reason why I don't, is because my mortgage needs to get paid. So if that means that I have to stay up till 2 a.m. packaging magazines myself, well, that's the way it's going to go for right now. So things change and they evolve, but sometimes the dirty work is the dirty work. And sometimes we have to modify our dream just for a bit.
And Brooke, I gotta say, like, I'm so happy that you continue to press on and continue to spread this message of Belong, because I know that it's touching so many women across the world. I know it's touched me, and if it's touched me, it's touched so many others. And I know that there will be a time, there will be a day when you will be ranking in money. It's just a matter of time. So I'm so thankful that you came on.
Thank you for saying that. Sometimes it sounds so silly, but sometimes it's nice to hear that other people believe in the work that you're doing.
Absolutely.
So as an encouragement to other women, I think that that's something else that we need to remember, is that when we have the opportunity to genuinely speak encouragement and truth like that to other women, like, hey, you're on the right track, you're doing amazing things, keep at it. Sometimes it can make all the difference to that woman. And the money sometimes doesn't matter. It's the fact that people believe in what you're doing, and that, like you said, you're touching people and you're inspiring them and you're keeping them going. Like, sometimes that's worth something more than a check in the bank. Now, is it paying your bills? No, but it keeps you going and keeps you from giving up. And sometimes it's so easy to just give up because we're so harried and frazzled by kids and work and everything else, that it's important for us to be able to encourage one another. So thank you for saying that. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, Brooke, thank you so much. And you have encouraged me and so many of us watching live, and so many of us who will be watching the replays and on the podcast, that the entrepreneurship is not something that you have all planned out and just do right away and making money. It's a journey, and I love that it's what you're doing is not what a lot of people are brave enough to do. So I appreciate you so much for answering to the calling of your life and doing this.
Thanks.
Thank you so much again for being here and for
Loved it.
For encouraging
any
us.
questions anybody has about the inner workings or whatever, I'm always happy to try to. I mean, I don't know anything. Like, I know bits and pieces, but I am always willing to be open and share any part of my journey that could be helpful and insightful to other people.
Thank you so much, Brooke. I really, really appreciate you. Ladies, oh my gosh, this was amazing, mind blown, and I'm so encouraged today, and I hope that you are too. Heart's work is not necessarily something easy to do or something that will bring you $1 million a year. It's something that you're put on this earth to do, and something that doesn't rank in money, but it ranks in dreams. I mean, it encourages, it inspires, and what Brooke is doing is absolutely incredible. Like, I highly encourage you to go to Barnes & Noble and get this issue. I think if you go today, you will still be able to get version 6, issue 6. And if you go in on Wednesday, you'll be able to get their most recent issue is number 7. And you know what? This is like the most perfect thing to keep on your coffee table and to come back and read it again and again. And I even spilled coffee on mine. You can barely see it, but it's there. But I'm like, you know what? It's just a representation of that. I actually read it and I love it, and I had coffee with it. So thank you again so much for joining us live. Please join us over on iTunes. We have our episodes go over there every single Wednesday morning. And so if you missed part of this episode or missed this whole episode, go ahead and over to iTunes and just iTunes podcast app and search for Mompreneur Show. We'll come up, subscribe, leave a review if you love us. And again, thank you so much. I hope I will see you live next Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern right here. And this is the show that helps you win in business without losing at home. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.